How much longer am I going to have to be here? I need your help. I want to burn. I want to explode. I want to have sexual intercourse with someone who has a car.
What's a car?
This is a very British story in some ways. It's a coming of age story, but it's also sort of about growing up in Wolverhampton and Manic Street Preachers. And was there any hesitancy in casting an American actress?
I didn't realise when I was writing the script that it would be an almost impossible film to make, because to find an actor that can play a 16-year-old working class girl who's really clever, really funny, really optimistic, very verbose, very into sort of 19th century flowery language, who can go on this journey from being sunny and optimistic and kind of stuck in a small town in the middle of nowhere, then go on this massive journey of terrible evil, become London's biggest dick, kind of like swagger around like sort of Susie Sue in her prime, and then revert back to being a good girl while still doing sex scenes, wearing a bikini made of bin bags. You can't find anyone who can do that. There isn't anyone. But thankfully, because it takes 17,000 years to make a movie, in the time between me starting to write the script and finishing it, Beanie Feldstein had been conceived, born, had this amazing career on Broadway, had made a movie, and so she was invented just in time for us to make this movie, and we wouldn't have been able to make it without her.
How did you cast Alfie Allen as John Kite?
So I was a child in a world of adults when I became a rock critic at the age of 16. And I found, contrary to everything that I'd always thought, it was the boys in bands who looked after me. They were working class and they just saw someone like them. So they became my friends. They really protected me and looked after me. It was not like the cliche that you see of rock stars in movies. They were just really genuinely good, lovely people. John Kite was based on sort of several rock stars. He's based quite a lot on Guy Garvey from Elbow as well, just this kind of lovely avuncular bear. But I'd always wanted Alfie Allen to do it because I'd seen him backstage at the Glastonbury Festival about 3 years before. Walking through the backstage area about 11 o'clock at night in this beautiful long tweed coat, clearly very much under the influence of alcohol, but still trying to be very sort of dignified and lovely and a gentleman as he walked through, and I was like, that's John Kite, that's him right there.
Come on, let's go! Good God, it's a child catcher.
Johanna Morrigan is dead. This is the legendary Dolly Wilde.
This book is inspired by sort of your life.
It's basically a documentary, a wildlife documentary on a very young, horny girl just
But it seems
tootling
like
around
you
London.
tamed down your story a little bit. Like you had a bigger family, you dropped, you were out of school earlier, yeah.
Yeah. Well, just because those things are more complicated to put in a movie, you're kind of like, I had so many things that I could have put in the movie, and so it's just a choice of like streamlining it and choosing the easiest things. So just making the family smaller, there was just no point in having like kind of 20 siblings hanging around and stuff. Her primary relationship is with Chrissy. So and it was great being able to adapt the book because I could just see all the bad bits and just kind of quietly put those in the bin of history and then take the good bits and really ramp them up.
What was your style when you were 16, and like how did yours sort of evolve over time?
It was basically that. We went to the costume department, so it was black tights, boots, shorts, a jacket, a frilly blouse. I very much wanted a top hat, but I've got a very gigantic head and I could never find one. So that was my one piece of wish fulfillment. I got her to wear a top hat in the movie because I think the Artful Dodgers look is such a great look for a girl. It's really comfortable, makes sure you can pick pockets, you're always ready for a musical number. So it was very much kind of a Lady Artful Dodger. She'll continue to be wearing that kind of stuff, even more sensible shoes, I think, in the second one. Big chunky boots. She obviously got to grow her hair back in the second one, but I'm a very hairy person. I can grow a full beard in like less than 3 minutes, and I'm sure Johanna could grow an entire head of hair back in a year.
These are the places you come where you can dance and scream and be with your own kind, where everything is possible.
I've had so many people going, how were you, you were a big girl, you were working class, you were rocking a massive monobrow, you had a very round face like the moon. How were you still, at that age, looking like you did and coming from where you did, still so sexually confident and confident in yourself and feel happy in your body? And I realised it was because I had inadvertently grown up only reading books by women, so I'd always seen women described by women and women who were being kind to women and who understood, who would describe the female body in a really beautiful and positive way. Whereas there's a brilliant Twitter account at the moment called Male Authors Describing Women, which just goes through all the sort of classic white male straight authors' descriptions of women, just extracting their descriptions of heroines as they walk in the room, and it's all just stuff like her breasts danced up in joy to greet him, like kind of like, and it's like, I can assure you these have never danced. Like, they don't move. I don't know if you think, like, breasts are like two penises that can, like, move around according to mood, but, like, they're very static. And I just realised I'd never read anything like that. And then when I read my first James Bond book by Ian Fleming when I was about 16, and he was describing this woman's breasts as having nipples like hazelnuts, and I was like, for starters, I got confused with hazelnuts and Brazil nuts, and I was like, walnuts, like, So I just think it's an interesting thought experiment. If you just only live in a world where you're surrounded by female art, will you feel better about yourself? And I suspect the answer is yes. there were decisions that I think male directors would have made in this movie that we just didn't make, and it's for the better, because it was an instinctive understanding of why women would do these things, the kind of places they would put themselves, and the kind of way they would react to stuff, which just makes it feel more truthful. I just want realness. When men write women now, I've got such a ear for it now. I can just be tuning into something and I see a woman saying something, I immediately, like, a man wrote that line, no woman would say that, you wouldn't react in that way. Like, men are kind of guessing what women are like, whereas women know what men are like, and that, I think that gives you such a power as a female writer. You're kind of like, I get what, because I've grown up on male culture, I've watched all your movies, I've read all your books, I've read all your diaries, I've seen all your insights, but you've never read our stuff, so I get you. And I get women, but men are kind of at a disadvantage at the moment. When I started writing the sequel to this, How to Be Famous, it's set a year later, so it's at the start of Britpop. And Johanna has basically a kind of Me Too moment. She has sex with this dark, horrible comedian, and he makes a sex tape of her, and this becomes her sexual shame, and everybody's talking about it, and it looks like it's going to ruin her career. And then she finds a way to deal with that, which is, sexual shame is something that's given to women, and it's given to them by the person who has abused them. And what you need to do with sexual shame when you're given it is to give it back and go, this isn't mine, it's yours. You have done the shameful thing. I have done nothing wrong at all. You need to take this back. I do not accept it. And the way that she chooses to do that is by putting the sex scene up on a screen at a gig and narrating it and going, this is what happened. So I'd got the whole plot for this, and this whole scene, I'd already written the scene, and then the Me Too movement kicked off, and that was exactly what women were doing around the world. And I was like, now I so much want to make this a movie. Like, kind of like feels like the thing that Hollywood should do in order to make amends for it is to make a Me Too movie and explain how women deal with sexual shame in the entertainment industry, because that's what that book's about. And the idea of Beanie doing that scene would be incredible, so I'm fingers crossed we get to make a sequel.
Dolly Wong, she's trouble.
Yes, I am trouble. The thing about crossing over to the dark side is that once you're there, it doesn't feel dark at all.